Thank you for listening, and welcome to another episode of the Doom is Dead podcast, a show where we delve deep into the minds of Doom's biggest heroes and villains. Our guest today, well, he's more like a superhero. He's an incredible Doom and Starcraft speedrunner, setting the world on fire with his enthusiastic streams. I speak of none other than KingDime. We had a really fascinating conversation, and we actually finally unveiled a big project we've been working on for quite a while. As always, Doom is Dead is sponsored by In the Keep and the Drowned God Catholic. It's not very often that I say, given the length of time I've spent in the Doom community, but there are people that I consider to be Doom royalty. People that, yes, even I am intimidated when speaking to. We just so happen to have one of those people here on the show with us today.
Thank you.
I will keep the fawning to a minimum. Please welcome KingDime.
No problem. It's great to be here.
And of course, as always, I have Do.
Hi, guys. By the way, I'm not that impressed by Dime. We're just kind of like buddies anyway.
And the Motherlode.
Dime, the last time I talked to you, you were deaf and I was mute. It actually happened that way. I don't know why. That's all I have to say.
I'm trying to remember. We're both trying to talk to each other. It must have been in the Bethesda hallway.
We were in the Bethesda hallway. I approached you like an idiot, and I had blown my voice out casting, and you were allegedly deaf. You were like, I can't hear anything. My ears hurt. I need to go to a doctor. And I'm like, but I was just trying to like squeak out words like, hey, I'm a big fan. That's all I want to say later on. And that was it.
Oh, man. I've been talking about that hearing issue for like a while now, but I just feel bad that that's like your first impression. It's me just, can't hear you. Sorry. What's going on?
No, it's fine, dude. My first impression of you was watching you kick ass. And then like when I just met you in person, it was like, oh, he's also deaf. That must be really hard.
Can't even hear ketchup on the stage. It was kind of awkward.
Well, I mean, for me, I was not ever somebody that was big into sitting there and watching people speedrun. When we were talking about going to watch this, I was like, kind of on the fence about it, not really sure. And I went anyway. And I think I mentioned this to you, but I'll do it again now. I thought it was really, really well done. I think it's definitely something that you have to spend time trying to not only demonstrate the ability to speedrun the way that you do, but also make it entertaining for people who are sitting in the audience and watching, and kind of the back and forth between you and the people casting it, and some of the tricks that you were doing. I found it to be super enjoyable. So I just I thought that was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole QuakeCon weekend, actually.
It's awesome to hear because you put a lot of work into those events, but I can say speedrunning is just a completely different experience than kind of what I was doing before, which was essentially like competitive RTS. You're sitting there at your computer and then you're queuing up these ladder games. You're doing 1v1 in Warcraft 3 or you're doing 1v1 in SC2, and you don't have to focus on commentary. It's just I'm working on a build order and then going forward. Whereas when you get to a marathon run, like if you have the best run that you've ever done, like even if you have a world record, if it bores your audience, then you've kind of failed in that respect.
So this is actually kind of interesting. So you started as a competitive RTS player, like the StarCraft scene and everything. And how did you like kind of move to speedrunning? Because you did some StarCraft speedrunning as well, right?
Yeah. After AGDQ 2013, I'd watched Railcoon's run, and he was doing the Wings of Liberty campaign in SC2. And I'd been watching like some different material on SDA or Speed Demos Archive, and I'd seen some Doom speedruns too on YouTube. Because back in the day, and I can't remember who had that Mario task, but I knew that video from Super Mario Bros. 3. And then there was a Rambo Bones task, which was like 14 minutes and 2 seconds. And initially, I didn't know what a tool-assisted speedrun was. But I just thought 14 minutes and 2 seconds was the world record. I'm just like, this guy's insane. I could never hit that. But
Right.
later on, I learned about like STX Viles runs, like his 2956 Nightmare for Doom 2, like his crazy 5-minute run in Knee Deep in the Dead. And I think it was Henning Skogstow's, his 2939 or
Yeah, like
something.
Henrik Skånstad was the record holder for the Nightmare Run. Like that was his baby back in the day. Like every time someone would beat him, he would eventually beat them back with like improved strategies, improved routing. But then like Vile did that one run that held for a long time, and then Henning, like it took him several years, and then he like returned back with another record. But that was like the last hurrah of the like the old guard, because after that it was just several years of like drought. Then came like the next era, which basically you helped kickstart, I guess, because you kind of like arrived on the scene, and like you weren't necessarily breaking those records, but you did the first GDQ Doom 2 run, right?
It was GDQ, the Plutonia, and the Doom 2
Okay,
run.
the Plutonia, the famous one with
Yes,
the,
that run.
so this is like 2013, right? This is around the same time, basically. Like you just went straight into the community and started.
Oh, it wasn't straight into speedrunning. Because, like I said, we were talking about StarCraft, but I had a friend
Mhm.
in the StarCraft scene who was my Terran practice partner, because I played Protoss. And he was telling me, like, we must have talked about Doom one day. And he said, "Oh, did you know that there's these special map sets or like mods and things like that?" And I'm like, "Well, I haven't played Doom in a long time, so I'll go get like whatever they have off Steam." And he said, "Screw that. You don't want that. You want to go get Z Doom and go try this Scythe.wad." Um, so that was like my first experience back into the game. Is I got into the first 2 episodes, and Eric Alm's like his level design and everything is just really kind of mesmerizing and different from what you're used to in the iWads. But then I got to episode 3 and I got my ass handed to me. I didn't know what to do. Like I got to despair, and it's just like I don't know how to play Doom. I need to learn how to play Doom.
So basically, you didn't necessarily consider yourself a speedrunner, but you were already kind of a streamer.
Not a streamer quite yet. I would say this experience in Doom would have been like more 2012. So that would have been like when I retouched Doom after being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing that, combine that with those YouTube speedruns. So after I was finished with Wings of Liberty, which I speedran, I'm like, I saw this other video by STX File, not the Doom 2 one, but the Plutonia one. And I saw like no further speedruns after Viles 4111. And I'm like, just watching this run, it's got all the high tier monsters. It's got these new tricks with like Archvile jumps, etc. I don't know why nobody does this. And then I delved into Plutonia.
Basically, you started practicing that for a full speed run, or were you always like did you have the SGD GDQ run in mind?
I'd say initially speedrunning for a bit, but there was this is going back. I think it was SGDQ 2012. Kugelwagen ran Doom before that I did my runs. So
Yeah.
he did like a Doom 1, a Doom 2 run. And Mike Uyama in the background was saying, "Are you going to do like Final Doom one day?" Kugelwagen kind of baiting him a little bit. And Kugelwagen's like, "No, that's too hard." And I'm like, "I think I could do that." I'm going to choose that game.
So then you ran that right the next year after that.
Yes.
And that was kind of like a big deal. Because by the time
what do you mean by big deal?
You were already like lodged into the community, so everyone was just kind of like watching, hyped for the runs, because that was never done before. and then you kind of had those several mistakes happen.
Well, as far as a run, like I think being on stage and everything is just so different from your practice just at home, because I put in months and months of practice for Plutonia.
Right.
And I'd say eventually my like deviation between runs was between 34 minutes and about 39 minutes at the time, because now there's like a much more aggressive route that is taken. But my stage presence, I was very nervous in my first run, and there was like an air conditioning that was blowing kind of under me at the computer in GDQ 2013, and I was freezing when I was playing. So I had like a small excuse with that, but I would say it was being cold plus just my adrenaline was flowing and probably a bit of stage fright.
I mean, because you've been to how many GDQs after that?
1, 2, 3. I'd say between 8 and 10.
So does it like get? Do you have a routine now? Like, are you just a pro who just walks into there and like it's all perfectly calm?
Yeah, I go in with a much more calm demeanor, and my advice is to like every new runner that comes from now on, whoever I'm talking to for these events, is the first thing that you want to do, which this advice is really from Day 9, who did the StarCraft dailies, which is when you're getting ready for a tournament or you're doing something like this, you want to practice in uncomfortable positions. So at home, I have like armrests and everything that I just relax and I play on. But in a GDQ, I just have like a standard chair where I have like forearms in front. So you want to practice maybe with your arms low, with your arms high, and get used to that setting, because that's going to be your marathon setting. Because if you can do your run in the worst of circumstances, then you're going to be far better prepared than, playing like a king. And secondly is kind of to make fun of myself. If I die at a marathon, it's not a big deal. If I die a couple of times, so what? Have fun with it. Don't get angry at yourself. Whereas in 2013, that was the case, as I started like freaking out in my head, like the world is crumbling, it's coming to an end. Because you saw my facial expressions.
Right, yeah.
I think that's what I kind of enjoyed about the QuakeCon speedrun was that like you were trying to do something a couple times and it took you like 3 or 4 times, but I thought it was going to be really, really serious, and you just kind of like rolled with it, and everybody was laughing, and it was
a backwards rocket jump.
Yeah.
Actually, the best example is probably how you reacted to the famous Barney the Archvile in one of those GDQ runs, right?
Yeah.
Where he just walked away from the door he was supposed to open, completely ruined the run several times in a row. And that's created your best meme on the internet, I guess.
Maybe second best. Because in 2013, there's a really good one with Professor Broman on the couch, who is he was like a Borderlands speedrunner, and then he went into Destiny, but he had a Hello Kitty hat on the couch, and he's just all proud of me for hitting, I think it was the Neurosphere Archvile jump, and he was just clapping away, and then you just see me like turn around in disgust.
Yeah, because obviously when you have someone who isn't closely familiar with the run, they won't know if you're actually on time or not, if you're doing well or not. It just looks like something is happening on the screen. So does this happen a lot on the GDQs?
Yeah, like the audience might recognize they'll recognize like a deathless Mega Man run, but for something that's, I don't know, 30 minutes versus 30 minutes and 30 seconds, it's not really going to be a big deal. They're going to be paying more attention to the entertainment value.
Right. So do you now go there with like a plan to have someone on the couch who will start the clapping at the right moments?
No, not clapping at the right moments, but like
the expert who will notice everyone that something cool just happened.
Yeah. Like this time around, I'm gonna have Mythical 9 and we'll have Matty Ice. So like, I have like a Google document that I have all set up with not exact commentary, but just a flow chart that we can go through. And with Doom being like a fast-paced game that's trying to kill me at all points, is Mythical and Matty at any time can jump in and take over commentary. Because in runs where you don't help out your commentators and they're not in line with everything that is going on, is they now have to be a personality or a comedian. And now I'm not saying that everybody is just plain boring, but there's entertainers and some are just more average in kind of a charismatic way.
Right. That kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
It's true of all commentators, though. Is in any situation where you're trying to do commentary, you inevitably, at any point in time, you can tell when the commentator is lost or then when they don't know. They're not just digesting what's going on at the same level as the people or person playing. So it just devolves into dick jokes at some point, and I'm guilty of that just as much as everybody else.
What I meant is that you're also a streamer, and the charismatic element there is probably much more important than in the speedrunning side of your business, because speedrunning, there's still like it centers around the performance. The rest is just extra. But when you're streaming, it all depends on kind of like how entertaining you are. So how do you struggle with that?
How do I struggle with the streaming side of things? Well, I made a decision that my money source would be from a job.
So you basically, for a time, you were a pro streamer. I mean,
I never made enough for it to be, because I would say as a professional, you would make everything to pay your bills. Never got to that point, but I would also argue, I think the only people that I could see really paying their bills right now with Doom are probably Joel. Joel, who does the mapping contests, and Civi. But he's kind of like an all-encompassing retro guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not any of us that are making any money, that's for sure. I want to touch on something that you brought up. I find it interesting because, not that I have done speedrunning, but when it comes to playing competitively, I still to this day get kind of nervous before like an important game in a league or something like that. I kind of feel like you have to go through like repetition almost. Like, so I'll open up, say, shoot.wad, and I'll load up the map with like 15 bots or something, and I'll just see how many things I can kill. For me, it's like just about kind of like a basketball player, right? The basketball player has to see the ball go into the hoop, and then it's like almost like you snap your fingers, and now you can shoot. So it's interesting that you said you actually put yourself into uncomfortable positions, and then you do your entire run, or do you just practice certain things, or how does that go?
Do the entire run. But in like a presentation like that is, that there's going to be a certain set of time. Say for TNT, I've got 50 minutes. And it's like, if you've had a failure 10 minutes in, then you still go. Whereas in the tournament situation, I can see where those nerves still apply. Because if you're in like round 1 and you get a killer on the other side of the bracket, well, you need to be in your best form to have a chance.
So mid tournament, is there anything that you do that, like, do you get nervous mid tournament or something? Where do you do anything that kind of calms you down from that?
Like applying to, say, back in StarCraft, or like applying this to speedrunning?
I mean, either. I mean, if there was any point in time where you were kind of under stress, you knew you had to kind of work your way through it in order to complete what you were trying to do. I guess it can kind of apply to all sorts of gaming situations.
I think it's about preparation. There was like local tournaments that I went to for SC, and I still remember some of the players, but like you'd get in late in the day, it'd be like 11 p.m. or midnight. And to keep your focus, you gotta have some coffee. You gotta keep practicing your build orders on your side computers. But I think for the most part, like in a tournament, you need to be decisive in what you do. You don't want to get into like this middling nervous point where you're just unsure. Because like I would say in Doom, like if you're not, I don't know, aggressively controlling the map, then like the other player can take opportunities on you. And then if they get the kill, then they have they can go for spawn frags, etc.
Yeah, but I guess you can still play kind of like a turtling defensive play in Doom. So probably in Doom you don't get punished for extremely long periods. Like if you get this nervous moment in StarCraft, you basically lose the entire game, right? Like you have lost some important stage of the game, and it will just snowball from that point on, right?
In Brood War, maybe less the case. Like if you've lost a base in a long macro game, you might be able to get it back. But in StarCraft 2, there was a death ball mechanic where like a battle could be over in seconds and you would lose a 200 army. But yeah, I know what you mean as far as like if we take Doom versus Quake, like if you're doing Quake Champions or you're doing Quake Live, is if you're passive and you have a strong stack, then you're in an advantageous position. Whereas in
Correct.
Doom, like the guy respawns, he might have an SSG already and have the ability to take you out.
Right, yeah. Doom is a lot about the situation restarts all the time, basically, and you have to keep droning with the same tempo for the entire game. So, speaking of Doom Deathmatch, did you get into that just on the side, or have you been following something more competitive in the history?
I watched a little bit of or some Doom Deathmatch, but like as far as experience, it's been more with some of the Doom Twid folk in just doing the countergoat initiative death matches, just hopping into Zandronum and then doing matches and like Duel 4, etc. And I attempted to do practice for this QuakeCon that just came out because I was going to join the tournaments. I'm like, ooh, there's going to be Devastation and Jakist in them, so I'm going to go download Otomex. And I got destroyed like over and over. And Jakist kind of comes up to me at QuakeCon and says like, yeah, a lot of those were my alts. I'm just thinking like, Jakist, what the hell? So I was losing like 90% of my matches to you. He's like, yeah.
That's actually quite common. Before like important games, that all of a sudden you see tons of weird nicknames completely destroying everyone.
Yeah.
And you just have to guess who that exactly is.
It's either Dev or Jakist.
Theoretically, the entire player base of all of these games, and Doom in particular, are like 1/3 of the size of the number of people that we see playing, because they're all alternates for people who are actually good.
Which is hilarious, but
unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate too.
Not good for your self-esteem, I guess.
Nope.
Well, I practiced against Jakist and Dev quite a bit leading up to QuakeCon, and I probably shouldn't have played, only because there was just no chance of me ever winning with them playing. But I did it anyway, and I just remember there was one game where I was practicing against Jakist, and he was beating me probably by 10 or 15, and I think I went on like a 6-frag run or something, and he still won, but he was like, good job. I just felt like a child, you know. I'd just been beaten down, and he was just like, good job, you know, keep playing me. I need people to beat up.
Gave you that chance, then took it away at the end, but it gave you new motivation.
It's just full of positivity, and it's just like well done, nice try. And it's like you're looking at the scoreboard, 50-15, just like rematch.
Yeah, there's been a long debate if it's actually better to like play against really good players who will keep destroying you, and like they build your perseverance that you have to just keep trying, and you learn from them, or if you should play with start with someone who's maybe just a notch above you. So you actually, it's not about you having a chance to win, but to actually play the game and not just, hit respawn. And I think the latter is actually much more better for new players.
Well, for brand new players, you mean people that are...
I mean, for example...
For them playing against someone more along the level of their skill?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that, because you don't... That's an easy way to get really disheartened from playing something. When you're brand new, you don't want to go up against somebody that's going to destroy you 50 to -4, which happened to me a couple times, especially on Doom 2 map 1.
And that's also the typical Quake experience for every new player. Like 23 to -2. Like, how did that happen?
And you go into Quake, and that's your first game. It's 23 to -2. So let's say I'm playing Crankdud in the community, who is apparently a legend at like all games he plays. Like really good at RTS, great at mystery speedrunning, fantastic Doom speedrunner, and also very good at Quake. And it's like you go back to the drawing board, you listen to some rocky, music montages, and then you come back 3 months later after, working up your rating. It's like, Cranked it, ready for the rematch. Let's go, bitch. 23 to -2. I quit. I'm done.
That's funny, because, I used to, when I would get into these big games, like a finals or something, I'd be like, okay, I had sort of a ritual. I was like, all right, I'm going to play Beat It by Michael Jackson, right? It's kind of it's a song that pumps you up and gets you excited about stuff. I lost every single time.
Maybe.
Well, okay, that's a different discussion. But I lost every single time I listened to that song. And then I stopped listening to it, and I started winning. And I don't know if that's some sort of karmic thing happening in the universe, but...
I remember I played my most intense Dwango 5 map 1 match, and I played this doom metal, really long, 20-minute long song, and I'm like, it should be about the length of the match. And then I had to just jump out of the game really quickly and just hit it to play over again, because the match actually ended up being 55 minutes.
Going back to the beginning, your sort of beginnings as a gamer, was StarCraft kind of your first thing that you were sort of obsessed with, or were there games before that kind of led you into that?
As a family, we had a PC and a Sega Genesis, and I can't remember what PC we had, but I know we had the shareware for Doom, and we had Wolfenstein 3D. So I'd played both of those. Cheated a lot in Doom, because as a kid, I think none of us have any shame in cheating.
And now you're like a professional Doom cheater, like almost in some aspects, like figuring out ways to cheat the game in general. That's amazing.
That's my middle name.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The YouTube crazies are always on top of us using glitches, and they're making sure we know. It's like you're cheating. Do you know that? If you
different types.
Yep. But on the Genesis, I was super into Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, and a crappy Batman game called Batman Forever that I later learned was panned everywhere, but it was Batman.
Dime, I just wanted to kind of I feel like we've talked the entire interview assuming that everyone coming into this knows who you and the rest of us are, and I feel like sometimes that could be a mistake, because there will inevitably be people who come to this or find out about this who are not quite aware of your history. And what I'm wondering is, what is it that happened, because you did just get on a little bit of a tangent about, the games that you played as a child. What in your upbringing caused you to be such an obsessive freak that you would sit down and become like such an expert at multiple different games? Like, what makes you what drives you to do what you do?
Jeez, I was feeling we're getting to an autistic joke about speedrunners there.
No, I mean, maybe, but that's for you to say, not me.
Fair enough. Like in my friend group, when I was young, like often they would put me to the side. They'd be like, Dime, you're too good at games and you keep beating us all. So let us have a turn. Let us take a chance. So like that kind of happened to me all the time throughout pretty much like whatever console game we're playing. Or I think there was like R-Type, one of these scrolling shooters, or GoldenEye or whatever. But later on, I was just kind of getting into the competitive scene. And so there was, I'd say, 3 different sources for that. The first would be getting into Warcraft 3, is there was this Warcraft 3 replay site. And on there was Four Kings Grubby, who I really got into because I played Orc and he played Orc. So I'd watch replays all the time. And this was a professional player. Like, I think everybody knows Grubby if they've been into RTS in any sense. But like, you're watching someone do like optimized build orders and everything. And then like me, myself, I'm copying that and trying to get to that same level. And then you sort of take that to StarCraft 2, where you're getting the boon of live streaming. There was like Ustream, live stream, and then Twitch TV came out. So everybody was watching different, like the Day 9 Daily, learning about the game and just what different streamers did. So I think it was easier for us all to learn how to research and to like really break down the games and play it at the highest level that we can. Mm-hmm. And then in Doom we had games done quick and SDA, etc. So I took everything that I learned from those experiences. Like it came from RTS, and then I put that into what I do for Doom.
It's still kind of interesting that you actually ran into Doom through speedrunning, because by that time, Doom speedrunning was still not at all integrated into the greater world of speedrunning. It was always kind of like at the side. It still is. It's like its own entity, its own world, its own scene. But nowadays, like, more people are like traversing between those two worlds.
It seems like Doom speedrunning would be obvious, right? Because it's built into the game. Like, beat John Romero's time in the game, beat the part time. It's right there on the screen.
But you don't have the demos on the archives. You don't have, didn't used to have the demos on right. YouTube. It was just bits and pieces, basically. And you have to delve into like the cryptic sites of Doom scene, and then everything opens for you.
For all the advantages of demos, I'd say it was a disadvantage on the streaming side of things, because you could do all of your speed running outside of these new streaming communities that are popping up, and you could do everything within Doom World. So you'd be at your keyboard, you would complete your demo, and then you would post it on Doom World. You don't have to really care what anybody else is doing. So whereas now it's more integrated. That was like one of the reasons that I created that streaming thread on Doom World, is to just try and get more eyes on this new scene, because now we don't just see the end product of the demo, is you get to see like maybe Mr. Zool or Shock Blast or Looper do their attempts. Like what happens from start to finish in the process of building a speedrun.
I think that may be your greatest contribution ultimately, because I agree with you wholeheartedly about the demo, not just in Doom, but demos in general. Like, while they're amazing and awesome, are all like simultaneously they do create that barrier where it's like there has been for all these years no reason for anyone to actually record anything and upload it to YouTube, or when they do, like go back and watch. I just recently did an interview with Machiavelli, right? Quake 2 matches that are just demos from one person's perspective with no commentary. You don't know what the players are actually doing or talking about. It's just we lose an entire part of history as a result of that.
Right, yeah, and Dime was the pioneer, one of the pioneers around the 2013 mark, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he also pioneered kind of bringing RTA speedrunning to Doom, right? Because that's not how we do it. That's not how we do it normally, but that's how it's done at the GDQs, right? So you've been doing those runs on your streams. So can you kind of like comment on the difference between like that and the hardcore pure Doom speedrunning?
Well, RTA is, I think it's a more simplistic design for learning a run. Because if you're just right away, you need to do something that's single segment so that you can successfully be put on a list. Is okay, you go into Doom 2, and to complete a single segment is you have to finish all of those levels in a row, like without dying. And that's a big hurdle for a new player to come across. Whereas RTA, since you're able to save at any point, is someone can start with, say, a 2-hour Doom 2 run, and then just kind of maybe decrease their saves, or just learn from there instead of getting to almost being a complete pro with the game before you can start speedrunning.
And another revolutionary thing you did during streaming, I should also mention, is the ill-fated evolution of Doom. Can you talk about that?
Evolution of the what?
The what? Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was like a streaming gimmick where we were attempting to go from 1994 and kind of doing it like the CAC Awards, but like instead doing a reference to like the evolution of mapping, and then using those examples and going through every year. And I don't know, this went on for maybe 6 months, and we had different guests on the stream. It could be like Do or Rock King or Tarnsman or Alfonso Jimmy, and etc. And we only ended up getting to Batman Doom, but it was just like a retrospective on just trying to go through level design and then seeing where it went.
Right, there was a huge mistake sometimes being made that you didn't know the maps prior to playing them, right?
Yeah.
And
it ended up just getting lost for hours.
I think that the ideal way to do that is to have the person who created it kind of explain their intent, as well. If you could do that simultaneously.
Yeah, but this was like mid-90s words. Those people are gone.
Dead.
Most likely some of them.
Oh, too morbid.
And I just want to say, like a typical Motherload fashion, I got to dip out halfway through the interview. I love you guys. Dime, big fan, and I will try to get with you sometime in the future. Kisses.
Awesome.
Later,
Take care
man.
of yourself, Motherload.
Yep.
So should we jump to the tournament thing?
I think we should.
Can I put something else about RTA though?
Yeah, sure. This will get.
I lose my train of thought all the time.
Uh-huh.
Like I just rant and I'm like, oh, I can't think of the words or anything. But like going back to the RTA topic is one thing about the difference between Doom 1 and Doom 2 is Doom 1 is episodic. And if you press escape when you're changing between the episodes, it breaks your demo. So the RTA has the advantage in that we can use this as a marathon run with this format, but in a single segment, it's technically broken.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about watching all these RDAs, like those, you have the HUD on your streaming screen, like you have the checkpoint times, and I mean you technically do get checkpoint times into simply by it shows you what the time is on the intermission screen, but like you don't have the comparison to your personal best with like the green numbers and the red numbers. That's something I find incredibly neat, and that's something you don't get in pure Doom speedrunning.
Yeah, if you're watching it to the side, you can bring up the demo and see what's going on with the final time. But just using these programs like Live Split, or there used to be W Split that I recall from Speedruns Live. And then as you're going through your splits, you would create, like, here we've got the hangar, the nuclear plant, the toxin refinery. And then say the hangar takes you an average of 13 seconds. If you get like 12.5, it'd be a green split. But if you got like 14 seconds on hangar, it'd be a red split. And right away, your audience knows like where this run lies on the spectrum.
Yeah, I hope we actually like maybe I hope we didn't skip explaining anything important. Otherwise, it's just technical mumbo jumbo. We'll see.
I'm trying to figure out how to go about this one.
Well,
I have to be excited about it. I'm not naturally excited.
Neither am I, which is probably bad for a host of a quote-unquote podcast. But so I'm guessing you had the idea for something following QuakeCon and the tournament that was held there. There were several tournaments, but specifically a duel tournament, right? You wanted to run something that maybe included some maps that were different from the usual maps that everyone plays?
Well, the idea is in the 20th anniversary Doom tournament at QuakeCon is we saw kind of some of those classic maps like Dwango 5, the Dead Simple map, Judas, King 1, and so on. And then at the tournament this year in QuakeCon in 2019, it looked like the map list, like at least specifically for Duel, I didn't see what was going on for FFA, was the kind of the exact same map list.
Yeah, they're the golden classics, and they will always be there. And like if you ask the top players, they will always pummel you with the same maps. They've just been a staple for 25 years by now.
Well, I think what we discovered as people that often run events and also just as players is that I'm not sure that there was really any direction that they went in choosing these maps, not just for Duel, but also for the FFA. So they kind of repeated, like you said, they repeated the maps that they used the last time in the sense that they used some classic maps. And I think they needed a modern touch.
And with that idea of... I lost myself.
So you came up with the idea to run a duel tournament using maps from different eras. So we had some maps that you chose from the 90s. You had some maps that we chose from the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and also the 2010s.
Oh boy, we have to unleash this. The cat is out of the hat. But yes, after QuakeCon, I wanted there to be maybe another tournament that kind of made use of some of these newer maps and maybe like use some of the older maps, but also combined it with the new. So with that, I want to officially announce a Doom Duel tournament called KingDime's Take the Crown Duel Tournament, which will have a prize pool. Right now, that's $1,500 USD. And right now we're looking at tournament dates that are going to be occurring in February and March. Currently, we have that on Saturdays, but there would be 4 different qualifiers that would take place starting on February 15th. and then there would be 16 players that qualify out of those into a final bracket on March 14th to crown the eventual champion.
The port will be Zendronum. That is a critical information. The community staples. It probably doesn't matter for anyone who's listening to this and doesn't care about different Doom ports, but yeah, it's going to be Zendronum for the easiness of setting everything up.
Yes.
And so the idea behind the qualifiers is so you have 4 separate chances basically to qualify for the big tournament. And I know that the reason behind announcing it now is it's going to give you a month and a half, almost 2 months to kind of get going and start practicing and start playing the maps. Like we talked about, we Dime and I sat through, and I mean, really, he picked the maps. We went through a WAD and we tried to pick some maps that went through different eras. So, I mean, I think that that's a valid way to go about it. I think you can't just rely on the classic map styles. I think that multiplayer Doom has evolved since 1994. So there's different mapping styles, there's different play styles. I think the map list does a really good job of portraying all of those different styles, and I think you're going to find that you're going to be able to tap into different skill sets and just some different things that maybe we haven't seen in the QuakeCon tournaments. I think you're going to maybe find that someone other than Devastation and J-Kist has a chance at winning because of that. So that's exciting in itself. Like Dime said, $1,500 could go up.
That.
Yeah,
we still will see about. Yeah, and I'm not talking about the prize, but we'll see if anyone Devastation enters the game.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I say that now, but
we still have maps he knows, and that's a problem.
So do you want to go through the map list?
Okay, so there's Mu 2D, which is almost as classic as some of the picks that are played all the time. It's just kind of like those are top 5. Mu 2D would be in everyone's top 10, I would guess, which makes it much less played in the end. But everyone still knows it. It's a map by Toke, and it's from, I guess, 2004, 5. And basically, it's a small map centered around SSG and trying to get the BFG. That's about it. And it's quite it has 2 levels of height, so it's not as a simplistic 1-level linear map like the Twangos are. So what's next? Dweller to map 11. Well, that's probably the most complex map. That's in the classic rotation. It's a really complex, small but highly vertical map. So a lot of people like it for the brain play.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not your Dwango 5 map 7, right? I mean, you're not. For someone like me, I have to tell a story about Dweller 2 map 11. I was playing J-Kist, and I was winning. I think I was beating him 38-20. Something ridiculous, like you've never seen it before, you'll never see it again type of thing. And he just went on this run, and he ended up beating me 50-41. So he went on a 30 frag run, and I only got 3. And it's all because of brain play. I think it's the best. It's actually my favorite duel map, so I think it's the best inclusion. But I think it's cool to include a brain play map like that.
Yeah, it's a map where you can easily set yourself to dominate the map. You get a powerful position, and then you hunt down the player who just can't get a foothold in the map, spawning over and over. But you have to be good enough to make that 30 frag run. I mean, like, were these decisions purely out of you and Dime playing duels?
Well, we played some duels on a few of them. I don't think we had to play duels on Mu 2D or King 1, but we definitely played Pyrrhic 2 Map 10. We played Saskatoon and also Uptight DM Map 8. And they were good games. I mean, they're interesting. It's cool because I think for us, we hadn't really played those maps before, so we kind of learned them on the fly. And
right, yeah. So you mentioned King. That's another classic. That's a 1997 map, I think. So
yes,
just slightly younger than the old school classics, and that's a heavy BFG map, but also kind of standoffish. It also features, like, it has parts where it goes heavily spawn fraggy, and then it has like the brain play parts where you have to kind of smoke the other guy out of defensive positions. So that's a map Europeans really like. Europeans use this map as one of the top 5 maps in all the big map pools. Europeans don't exactly prefer SSL2. Like, maybe times have changed now that the old scene is basically gone. But back in the day, it was king over SSL2.
Yeah, and the 3 old school maps, like 3 was picked on purpose because there's going to be a ban and a pick system that the players can take advantage of. And we didn't want it so that a player would be able to play 2 old school maps. So in this case, like, you can get your 1 old school map, but you would have to be able to win on 2 newer maps or at least 1 newer map to take the series. Like, you couldn't win on a King 1 and a Mu 2D, like if you had them banned out.
Right. That's pretty clever. So we get one of the first new maps is one that we actually haven't mentioned yet. It's Idea. That's an Alex Max map, and a Keck Award winner, by the way. And that's a pretty, like, cerebral map that tries to emulate Dwango 5 map 1 style, but it's also smaller, more condensed, so it's like faster paced, I guess. That's how I would describe it.
And what we found while we were playing is that the single shotgun takes like a bigger priority than on like many other maps, in that you can get these long range duels that are taking place where like just the normal SG can be used very effectively.
Right, yeah, because from what my experience is, oftentimes you don't even have enough time to grab a powerful weapon. You will just have to use the SG you get on the spawn.
yeah, and that's the perfect map for that too. I mean, the perfect map to experience that kind of. I mean, the SG is not necessarily a common weapon that you would run to in a duel because it does less damage, but I think that map lends itself to that kind of gameplay where you're kind of sniping at each other, and you're just in these long range gunfights. So I think it's a really interesting map to include.
Then you mentioned already the Saskatoon map, and I will just say that I don't have any memory of the Counter Goat maps, so I will just assume this is a my house map of Dime's house.
It's Rock King's house. So we had a tournament, a CGI tournament with Doom Twid, where we had different members that were playing, and it also included Demon Sphere, Rest of the Soul, and pretty much in each of the series, Saskatoon got picked because it just ended up being arguably I'd say the strongest dual map out of CGI, and it ended up also being used in the finals and everything, and it just it just feels like this classic Rock King map that it's got some verticality to it with the BFG and also going up the elevator, but it's a wide kind of horizontal map where you can make use of the sides and some clever hiding places.
I'm just glad it's not the map with the conveyors. That's all I'm asking for.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that fit. Maybe next time.
Okay, next we have Peric 2, map 10. Peric 2 is a map set by HumanBones, and it's a good one. It's like a blend of classic design, but with like a heavy arena bend. So
Retro modern.
Retro modern, yes, that would be it. Thank you. It's like Peric 1 got a kick award as well. Peric 2, I didn't think it was as good as the first one overall. Like there were good maps and there were maps that I didn't like. So I believe you guys picked one of the better ones. I will just trust in you.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I think that's HumanBones' style, is to pick or I should say, is to map the simple, kind of straightforward, more old school design map, but then detail it like it's something out of.
Yeah, this one. This is straight out of Exec. Yeah. This is going to be really frenetic. That's a tiny map.
Yeah, so I think the map list as a whole kind of has a really wide variety of playstyles. I mean, you have something like Dweller 2 map 11, like we talked about, it can be very standoffish. A lot of brain play. You've got something like King 1 where you try and flush the other player out, and then you have Pyrrhic 2 map 10 where it's going to be complete chaos. So I think there's a really solid group of maps here, and we did Dime did a good job of picking maps from different eras so that we don't have to sit there and play the same maps over and over again, which I detest having to do that, because how are you going to ever in this world beat J-Kist at Judas 23? Ever. How is that ever going to happen? It's never going to happen to me. So I feel much better about trying to beat somebody on Uptight DM map 8 or Saskatoon than I would about trying to beat somebody on Judas 23. So I think it's a really cool tournament. I wish, or I should say, I hope that a lot of people also find it to be kind of an innovative set of maps, because I think every kind of duel tournament like this, of this size and this magnitude, really kind of tend to focus on the classic maps. And there's been so many good maps that have been made over the years. So it's cool to see that kind of creeping in a little bit.
Oh, by the way, I just noticed, we haven't spoken about this little gem in the rules. Traditional duel, first to 50 kills wins, or highest kill count at the end of 20 minutes. So there we go. No 55-minute duels.
And I think that was done on purpose, right?
Yeah, I don't think any of these maps is actually... Well, Dweller, yeah. I can definitely see someone hitting time limit on Dweller. Other than that, these maps are short affairs. Of course, unless we're talking some really crazy people like Ocelot and Mortalogy. They had that famous duel on King 1 where they didn't move for 7 minutes. Just stared at each other and just
yeah, that's not going to happen here.
Well, that's what we're trying to avoid with that, is by giving a 20-minute time limit, then you have a goal to kind of strive for in the end. But I would say a second decision behind that is we're going to be casting the games and the qualifiers and the finals. And it's just like, if you have a 2 out of 3 set and you have 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, if that's all going to the max, that's an hour for a series. But if you have the odd set out and you're in round 1 and one group goes for 2.5 hours, your entire bracket is messed up.
Yes. I agree with that. And if someone's worried about, they can always eliminate the longest ones, which would be probably Dweller and King. But who knows? Dweller for sure. I've seen 30 minute plus duels on Dweller between like two very defensive players.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me it's the ultimate defensive map. I mean, you just kind of wait. I think you can wait until somebody becomes impatient, and then
that could be pretty interesting, like a change of dynamic or usual wait and bait on Dweller, because at some point someone will be trailing and the time will be ticking, so they will have to make those frags up and they will have to start rushing in, so it will be an interesting change of pace on that map.
Well, something I learned from listening to the podcast that Devastation did with Motherload is the way that he looks at playing people, where he will adapt the other player to one play style, where maybe he'll be really aggressive for 8 frags. And so somebody gets used to that, and then all of a sudden the other player is getting really aggressive too, like expecting Dev to be like that. And then he'll kind of slow it down and kind of play mind games with them for a little bit, and they're kind of, kept off guard and they're not sure what to do. And they try to adjust to him, and it's really about controlling the pace of the game. And I think Dweller 2 map 11 is kind of the perfect map for that.
And then Devastation plays Chewy, and Chewy just laughs it off. Just anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the first tournament to have time limits. Like, did not the QuakeCon that went on this year had time limits?
The first one certainly did. And yeah, this one probably did as well.
It did, because I remember playing D5M7 in the match that I lost, and it was like a 25-23 game. We didn't even get anywhere near it because we were just like playing way off of each other. So there's definitely a strategy that gets involved when you have a time limit, depending on the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, like, that was the first QuakeCon tournament had like the time limit hit in the finals on Dwango 5 map 1, and that was like Jake is tying it in the last second.
That's right. Yeah. We should put something like that into the rules. What happens when there's a tie?
Just a tiebreaker. Tiebreaker frag, golden frag. However you want to call it. It shouldn't go to 2 ties. That's a nonsense.
You're now
shoot
stuck
to
playing.
1 kill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not one, like 100.
Like
it's as bad as the tiebreaker in Jeopardy, where
like
Alex
every map,
then like one question.
Every map has the shoot arena copied next to each other, and when the time limit hits, the players are teleported to that arena. So it just continues straight into that one frag, gunfight.
You take advantage of that. You have the BFG at the end, and you fire it on the far side. You just
but you're facing the other guy. What if he has a faster weapon?
They both die.
I'm adding this to the rules right now. We're going to go tiebreaker into shoot.wad. Instead of health packs, they will be invulnerability. And then we'll see.
Timing out who drops the invulnerability first.
Yes. So yeah, there will be 4 qualifiers to make it to the finals. I can give you the dates right now. They're all on Saturdays. So it's February 15th, 22nd, 29th. The final qualifier is March 7th, and the big deal event should be Saturday, March 14th. That
we
is
have
that, and I am very excited for this, I have to say.
we have a February 29th. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh yeah, the servers policies.
Server
Um,
policy, yes.
That's always a big issue. So we will try to like balance it. Europe versus America, and inter-America, East versus West Coast. But in the end, we will probably have to go with something that will not be entirely fair to everyone. Probably there will be like a neutral server for, especially for like tiebreakers, if that has to be done. How do you actually want to do this? That's we
Well,
might want to redo this this segment.
I think that having the player's location is going to be a big deal, and then you just kind of pick. You can do it the simple way where you have someone ping. You have two people ping a server, and whichever one has the most, the closest ping, and that's where you. That's where you you could do the points way, right? Where you give.
But if it's a French person and an East Coast person, there will be nothing that will be like fair for both of them.
I think there's a submarine in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right?
Yeah.
That can host a server.
Dude, fucking Ocelot, he had this crazy idea that if like he's playing Frenchies, that he didn't want to play them in Germany on lap, because that was still giving, even though everyone was pinging the lowest, like the cumulative ping was the lowest, but the French people would get like 15 milliseconds advantage over him because he had really good internet. So it wasn't like he was playing it from a back of a moose or whatever. But he really wanted to find a server where the players would be completely tied ping wise. So he made them play in fucking Iceland, because everyone would have 80 ping in Iceland. Like, he triangulated a position where they would have the same ping, but that's complete nonsense. I mean, he actually like pulled ropes to get a server in Iceland. That makes no sense to me.
Well, I'll tell you right now, we won't be doing that.
If it comes down to, you can always find middle ground in America between the coast. But if it comes down to Europe and America, you could probably have home field servers, and then how do you resolve the tiebreaker? That's the big issue. And it could be either they, as is written in the rules, either they flip coin. It could be whoever had the frag advantage, I guess, like total frag count higher, or it could be a neutral server, but you won't get.
I think a neutral server is probably the way to go on that one, especially when it comes to something involving money.
Yeah. But we might, you might have to use the first week to test this out, and like if it works, use it for the final tournament. If it doesn't, use something else for the final tournament, because the final tournament is going to matter. And if it's going to go down to someone whining over higher ping because it might influence the outcome, and then someone will get like several $100 more because of that, then suddenly it matters.
Oh, absolutely. But you try to do the best that you can for an online tournament.
Oh yeah,
that is one of the weaknesses of an online tournament versus a LAN, admittedly.
we've always struggled with this. It's always been a struggle. But I'm saying, like, it shouldn't be like, oh yeah, it's just it is what it is. Someone will just get lucky. So yeah, we should put kind of like a testing process maybe into it. Like so maybe like in the first week,
The first qualifier, you mean?
Yeah. The first qualifier. See if it works. If it doesn't, change it. Whatever.
I think that's fine, and I think it's okay to be transparent about that too. Like, qualifier 1, we're going to do it this way. Qualifier 2, we're going to do it this way. By the time we get to the last tournament,
we don't need to like completely experiment with it. Like now, qualifier 2 will use this method, even though we think it's shitty, but we want to test it. No, if like pick the best one we think will work best for in the first qualifier. If it works, just roll with it. If it doesn't, change it. Like, you know.
Yeah, and so the nitty gritty, it will be run out of the MDF server. I think we have a pretty good system in place in terms of getting people highlighted and kind of the organizational part of that. So you'll be able to sign up there. I'm going to post it on several forums, so the information will be available to everyone. Yeah, we're going to try to get some people down. Definitely Motherload's going to be streaming some games. If we cross our fingers and maybe pay a little bit of money, we can get Jahar to stream. That would be cool. But yeah, I mean, I think we kind of nailed this tournament. I think it's a really cool idea. I have to say, I was surprised that I have to give credit actually to Wartorn. Did you not bring it up to Wartorn about wanting to run something, and he kind of connected you with us? I mean, that was pretty cool. I felt a little special that we were asked to assist in running this.
Yes, Wartorn was the neutral party in this, then suggesting like a multiplayer tournament after QuakeCon, and then he sent me over to you too.
Dime, now that we've covered all of this, I would like to wish you good luck for your upcoming live speedrun you will be doing on the next GDQ, which will happen before this episode will be released. So this is kind of like time loop weirdness. People will be hearing this from the future. No, the past. I don't know. So you will be running Sigil, right?
Yeah, decided to submit Sigil for AGDQ 2020 because right after that we saw Romero was releasing a new unofficial sequel episode to the Ultimate Doom. It's like, hell yeah.
Unofficial?
This.
Unofficial? Have you seen Bethesda Net? Fuck, I'm chilling for the corporation right now. They actually, like, by Christmas, they made it quote unquote official new special port from their launcher.
Yeah, that's going to be with the Slayers collection, I think, and then they're putting like add-ons to that. So it's like, I don't know if it's official or if it's unofficial, but like the Sigil speedrun, like when we went through the maps, it seemed really good. There's some fun tricks, and it's the longest of any episode in like Ultimate Doom. It's definitely longer than 1 through 4.
Speaking of special tricks, yeah, let's say you had a strong opinion and you went with version 1.1, right?
Yeah, it's 1.1. 2 reasons. When I submitted, it was still 1.1 because submissions were done before September. And in 1.2, there's 2 tricks that you can no longer do. So I think 1.1 is just more hype for the audience. It's the more interesting of the 2, in my opinion.
For speedrunning, is like crazier tricks, even though Romero literally took them out to screw with Zero Master.
Yeah, I don't understand the decision in just that, like, when we're routing and figuring out a run, is in that version it was organic in everything that we figured out. And it, looking at the patch notes, it did seem kind of aimed at Zero Master. I don't think it was done out of malice
No.
in any way, but I just think there's so few people who are going to make use of these tricks, in that there's glitches in games where you can get out of walls, and there might be like a simple way to do it where patching that out makes sense for the audience. But like these tricks, if you're not doing like a precise stray 50 in this position to get X amount of momentum, it'll never work. So a new player just going through it, they won't find it.
For the record, I really think that the meth 4 jump over the bars should have stayed in there. That was so cool.
Oh yeah, it's a sick trick. But I think Romero's chill about the things. Like we're showing off his episode on a big stage. I can't see him being frustrated with that, and I have no intentions of being salty about it on stage. It's just going to say like, using version 1.1, move on.
For the tricks. You can say that. For the tricks.
Yes.
Okay, so well, good luck with the run. That's I know you won't have hard time actually. Like you already said that you already have like the chill demeanor, and it's RTA, so it's not such a big deal if you just reload.
Hey, even if I went over estimate, it's not the end of the world.
Have you ever gone over the estimate?
No, I haven't. I probably should have in the first Plutonia run.
So
I think the first Plutonia run, the estimate was too easy.
Yeah. You need to protect your perfect score there.
I think it's more respectable to just do the runs in the first place rather than just to not do it at all. Even if there can potentially be failure. Otherwise, you do nothing in your life.
All right.
Well, so looking forward past the tournament, past the Sigil RTA, what is in your future? What do you have coming up that we can look forward to?
Coming up, there's a huge Doom release that's going on March 20th. So I might be speedrunning Doom Eternal and Ultra Nightmare attempts. Ultra Nightmare, if it's in the game.
Will you be like participating in the hunt for first Ultra Nightmare run or whatever? Like, what's the next new challenge? Like, will you be seriously competing?
We'll give it a try, but I think the strategy is to distract Zero Master and get him on to some other game, and then we have a shot.
Like,
but even if say I don't take first place, Dracu and Zero Master had a serious race to the first completion in Doom 2016. So if we see
I
the
wanted
same
to
thing
mention
happen with Eternal.
Like if you're talking about distracting people, you need to distract.
Yeah, definitely. But Doom Eternal, and then from then on, some casual gaming. I'm in a WoW guild right now and just doing classic WoW for some reason, but just doing that and work.
Chill gaming. What a wonderful prospect. No stress life.
Yes.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And on behalf of Do and Motherload, thank you very much.
Oh, it was awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.